From the banks of the Allegheny to the shores of Jersey, welcome to Film Bits, Two Cups of Joe. Joe Squared, we're back. Joe, good to see you again from a minute ago.
Good to see you again too, my brother. Always fun hanging out with Joe.
So we are going to jump in. If you saw last episode, we're going to be doing all Mr. Orange, and then we'll have one more episode, the humongous finale. And Joe and I have been talking. So for the however many of you see this, our next film, which you'll get the sneak peek on before we announce it publicly, is we're gonna do some more QT, and we're gonna go after the Hateful Eight, which Joe and I both love, and that's going to be another great one. But let's hold that for a few more weeks down the road. Let's dive into Mr. Orange's story. Joe, you all ready?
I'm ready, sir.
Go. Tarantino loves diners. This is our second shot of a diner in this movie, and he uses diners in other films as well.
I mean, makes me think if he was from if Tarantino spent a lot of time in Jersey, honestly.
Yeah.
We're known for the diner situation.
Yeah, this is the California equivalent is the coffee shop or greasy spoon. So it doesn't have that diner look, but it has that same kind of feel. Just like you see all those flickering lights. That's old school 1950s LA right there, LA suburbs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He says I should just hang in my apartment and wait for a phone call. Well, after waiting 3 goddamn days by the fucking
God, Mr. Pink, I've loved to have been a fly on the wall during this conversation.
Yeah.
A nice guy. We get to the bar.
What bar?
Smoky Pete's in Gardena. We get there, and I meet Joe and a guy named Mr. White. It's a funny name. My name is Mr. Orange.
Mr. Orange?
Mr. Orange.
Okay, Mr. Orange. Have you ever seen this motherfucker before?
Who? Mr. White?
Yes, Mr. Orange. Mr. White.
No, he ain't familiar. He ain't one of Cabot's soldiers either. He's got to be from out of town. Joe knows him real good.
So that's a pretty good piece of information too, is that Mr. White is not one of Joe's regulars, essentially.
Yeah.
He's not one of the normal soldiers.
A little.
That he is also essentially a hired gun for this job.
Yeah.
Apparently they won the night before. He made a killing off me.
This is sweet, man.
And here you're seeing how he's picking up all little pieces of information, like an undercover cop would, to find out that this guy essentially won money on the Brewers, and who bets on the Brewers other than a Milwaukee fan.
Good call.
Is the way they were putting it together.
Guys from old Milwaukee with a history of armed robbery, put a name to the face. Nice work, man.
Thank you, my man.
How was Long Beach Mike's referral?
Perfecto. He's backing me up in a long fucking way. I told him it was Long Beach Mike. I did the poker game with him. A nice guy called him to check it out. He said it was A-okay. He said it was a good thief. I didn't rattle. I was ready to make a move. So do right by him. He's a good guy.
And then you see how they essentially got him in was through somebody, I guess they had arrested basically, and used him to give him credentials.
Fucking scumbag. He's selling out his amigos. That's what kind of a nice guy he fucking is, all right? I'll take care of his fucking ass, man. But you get that low-life scumbag out of mine and you take care of business, you hear me?
Gone.
That's we see that Roth wants to take care
Use the commode
of
story.
White.
What's the commode?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Scene,
Go
man,
easy
remember
on it.
that?
And then the commode story.
Yeah.
Look, man, an undercover cop's got to be Marlon Brando, right? To do this job, you got to be a great actor. You got to be naturalistic. You got to be naturalistic as hell. Bad.
And then you see that's always been an interesting thing for me as well, is that undercover cops to me essentially, he's right, they got to be actors.
Yeah.
They have to play a part.
man.
I gotta memorize all this? There's over 4 fucking pages of
Look,
this
man,
shit.
just think about it like it's a joke, all right?
You memorize what's important, the rest you make your own, all right?
You can tell a joke, can't you?
Nope.
Pretend you're Don Rickles or some fucking body and tell a joke, all right? Now, the things you got to remember are the details. It's the details that sell your story. Now, this particular story takes place in a men's.
And he's right. This is a good, I like this piece of information, honestly. You know, to take the important parts but make it your own. People can tell when you're trying to recite something versus saying something that's yours.
You got to ain't got no doors or not, man. You got to know if they got liquid soap or that pink granulated powdered shit they used to use in high school, remember? You got to know if they got hot
Now,
water
that tells you how old the film is, by the way. That
Right.
Pink granulated powder.
motherfucker, man, sprayed diarrhea all over one of the bowls. You gotta know every detail there is to know about this commode. So what you gotta do is to take all them details, man, and make them your own.
The fact that he keeps calling it a commode.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know why, but that's what he's calling it.
The only way to do that, my brother, keep saying it, saying it, saying it, and saying it, and saying it.
This was during the
Okay, just a couple things here. I find the costuming on this guy very interesting. This, whoever he is, he's obviously police, but the first thing we see when he's in the diner is he's got a Soviet star on like a green revolutionary beret kind of thing, which is rather interesting, a little radical. And then when they're working out together, he's wearing a beat up denim vest with no shirt and some kind of like a colorful headband. It kind of reminds me of like Delta Force, how Delta Force doesn't have to follow Army regs. You know, they get to grow the beards and they get to do what they want because they're always going in deep cover. So I just thought that even though this guy is a bit character, this other officer, still some costuming choices that tell us a little bit about his character. And now the reason I wanted us to pause here is because this wall shows Silver Surfer.
Yes, sir.
Jack Kirby, Silver Surfer, by the way. Tarantino was a big nut in the comics. Actually, he did some script doctoring on The Hunt for Red October, and there's a discussion that goes on at some point in the film about comic characters, and that was definitely some script work that Tarantino did over whoever wrote the screenplay for October to make it sound a little more youthful and a little more pop culture-y.
Yeah, I think that's a cool little piece too. To point out the Silver Surfer, it's just little things like that I think Tarantino puts in films that make them his film. You know, you can spot those things and say that's a Tarantino thing to do. And
yeah.
Throwing that Silver Surfer poster up is, I don't think this is the kind of guy who would normally have one, but there it is.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And just before we go back in, just interesting set decoration. We've got some mixed donuts on top of the microwave there, and then off to the right on top of the fan, 3 looks like lemons and a soft drink cup. You know, just random stuff. All right,
extremely random. Even the other poster, what is it, Kamikaze Cowboy?
Yeah.
I mean, there's very random items thrown around here, but I mean, hey, it works.
It does. Let's go ahead and start it back up, Joe.
Los Angeles marijuana drug, 986. I still had a connection, which was insane, because you couldn't get any weed any fucking where then.
I also like this choice of Tarantino's just to stay focused on the window, and Roth goes in and out. We don't have to follow Roth because we can hear him. We know what he's doing. Better just to give us a sense of the place and let Roth wander in and out of frame.
Right, and you can also see like Roth working through this story and trying to turn it into his, just like the other characters told him to do. Trying to get it down, know it well, and make it his story now.
And he just took a peek at the script because he's got the memorization down and he's working through it, but he had to take a quick peek at the script to make sure he got a detail right. And you know, I've taken acting classes, and I know now he's just picked up the bat, and, you know, it's just what you do. And now he's doing the full dress rehearsal, if you will.
I also thought this was a cool scene because we got to see the differences between the actual character Freddy that he is and then Mr. Orange.
Good, yeah.
How the actor was acting a different role in this movie, playing 2 different guys, basically. Very well.
Right, because we don't see this personality on Orange. We go from the diner to him being shot, so we never get to see Orange as an actual character.
Yeah, right. But now we're getting to see all versions of him.
Yeah.
And it's a really very, I think it's an underrated performance of Roth. It's not one that gets talked about much, but it really should be.
Yeah. And Tarantino back to the rotating around the table, classical move. We saw it in the diner. He's got that camera on a dolly.
And I like the way it went from him in the apartment, him doing the dress rehearsal. Now he's out standing in front of the guys telling the story.
Usually goes with her, but he's in county unexpectedly.
What for?
His traffic ticket's gone warrant. They stopped him for something, found warrants on him, took him to county.
And look, see right there. That's why
That's it.
The little details.
Yep.
I don't want to do this. Not very. bad feeling about it. She keeps asking. Finally, I said, okay, because I'm sick of hearing it. Now, we're picking the guy up at the train station.
Wait a minute. You go to the train station to pick up the buyer, the weed on you?
Yeah, the guy needed it right away. Don't ask me why. Anyway, we get to the train station.
See, and again, all the details. It's important because they're going to question it.
Carry-on bags. I got to take a piss. So I tell Connection, I'll be right back. I'm going to the boys' room.
And this is where Tarantino starts to have some fun visually and artistically.
Right. Yeah, right. Just randomly in the stall, 4 cops and a dog.
Just cops hanging out in the men's room talking. When I walked through the door, they all stopped what they were talking about and they looked at me.
That's hard, man. That's a fucking hard situation.
German Shepherd starts.
And you can see there, right? You can see that relationship building between him and Mr. White
Yes.
already.
Yes.
Because he's completely enthralled in this kid's story.
All my senses, blood in my veins, everything I have is speaking.
This is great.
Take off, man.
Yeah.
Just bail. Just get the fuck out of there. Panic hits me like
Because
a bottle of water.
it's perfectly done here. And even when he's telling the story, like, you're right. What do you do there in that situation? If you just turn around and walk out, obviously you look guilty at that point.
Smell it. Sure as that fucking
Tarantino with a low angle 360, just going, doing that cross of reality and imaginary, while he's dictating the story to the dudes in the bar. It's just a lovely storytelling mechanism.
And even, I'm assuming because the cops have dialogue here, that he is actually telling that, like the cop story, what they're saying in the stall to the guys at the table.
Good call. That's what I would say too.
And he's still looking at me.
So it's a story within a story, Joe.
Right, yeah, and it's very, again, more about what that character, his boss, was telling them. Every little detail. They're going to want to know, what were those cops doing in there? They were just standing there in the bathroom doing nothing? So they had a story. Tell them their story. Tell them everything.
This guy's girlfriend, this real sexy Oriental bitch, you know, she starts screaming at him, Chuck, what are you doing? Listen to that.
And he's got to wash his hands. He can't just speed out of there and not wash his hands because that's going to look obvious, right? What kind of pig doesn't wash their hands? So now he's got to get close to him.
What was he going for? This fucking registration.
We got a cop looking at him and checking him out. Now this is great. This pause, to me, is like, is it a blow dryer or is it a paper dryer? You know, that's the way when he's coming up with his details. It's a blow dryer, or not a paper dryer, but paper towels. And it just adds to this because the dryer interrupts their frickin' story.
So now they're all sitting here staring at him like, excuse us, we're having a conversation.
Right. But it just shows his balls, and even the dog. Because remember, this is the story he, of course, is telling the other gangsters in the bar, and it just shows the size of his balls.
You know how to handle that situation. Just shoot in your pants and dive in and swim.
Tell me more about Kevin.
I don't know. He's a cool guy. He's funny. He's a funny guy. You remember the Fantastic Four?
Or comics?
Oh, yeah, with that invisible bitch. And,
Thing. Motherfucker looks just like the Thing.
Just like the Thing.
Yeah.
Hey, showtime. Grab your jacket. I'm parked outside.
I'll be right down.
Hey, be right down.
My sunshine. Audio is like this when she teased him with a kiss.
Now here's a part that I always thought was interesting.
With the change drawer, with the change bowl?
Yes.
Yes, I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you.
I always found that part interesting. As in, was that his character or was that him? You know?
Right. Right. And they're playing the song "A Fool for Love," which has no context other than when he hits that change bowl.
I think the only part about the whole thing I found odd was that he threw the 6-shooter in his coat pocket. Just always found that one odd.
Yeah.
Here he goes. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Actually, are we getting ready to pause?
Let's pause it. Yeah, you can pause it just like I can, brother. Pause it.
Let's pause it then. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to assume that the actual Freddie, I can't remember his last name, the cop,
Yep.
is married.
Yep.
Because that ring is hidden well in that change dish. It's made sure that people don't see it. And I'm thinking this is the moment where they're getting him for a job or whatever. And he's not 100% sure if he's going to come back. And that's why he went back for that ring to take it with him. It was important to make sure he had it with him in case something happened.
I'm with you 100%. We don't know. He doesn't give him details. Obviously, a golden ring on your left ring finger is a symbol in our culture. It would have come up probably. They might have asked him, hey, you got a wife or whatever. We have to assume that he's told them that. But the way he delays, like he's going out the door and then comes back for it, makes you think, well, maybe he didn't tell them that. Because it is going to stick out like a sore thumb when they see it, if they make notice of it. And you have to think these guys are pretty observational, and they probably would. But again, that song, Joe, the "Fool for Love," it is, and it just kind of makes what's happened to him sting a little bit more, because if he does have a wife, he's dying, as we now know. But he did want that connection with her. It's a fun little mystery that Tarantino never solves for us.
Right, and again, just thinking about the way he prepares and all that stuff, and the way he gets ready to walk out the door. It seems like he's very methodical behind getting into character, if you will, for these guys.
Yes.
And that ring is not left out somewhere to make sure, hey, I got to put this on before I walk out the door.
Right.
It's hidden away as if he didn't want them to really see this ring.
Right.
And now he's deciding, you know what, whatever, this is the day. I'm not leaving here without my ring now.
Which is interesting, because this isn't the heist day. This is kind of like the stakeout day and the case the joint day. So, yeah. And you're right. One would think that maybe he had told them, but you're right. It was buried. So, like I said, a fun little mystery. Ready to pick it back up?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. They close the door again.
Don't pussy out of me now. They don't know. They don't know shit. You're not gonna get hurt.
See, now that's making me think even more. He went back for that ring because he's afraid that they think something's up.
Yeah.
That they know something.
And don't pussy out on me is what he told the cop last episode as well.
That's right.
Rocks in his head the size of Gibraltar to work undercover. You want one of these? Yeah, give me the bear claw.
A little bit of cop stereotype humor there.
Yep. Got the donuts in the car. Now, this is the only scene that somewhat bothered me. These guys, the criminals, have been so observant about things. You're telling me that they couldn't tell they were being tailed?
There's a slight difference.
I'm going to say they were lost to this tale that nice guy Eddie's about to tell. That's how I justify it.
Okay. I can go with that.
I gotta go along with Pink on that one. I've seen it happen.
Okay, Mr. Expert, if this is such a truism, why is it that every nigger I know treats his woman like a piece of shit?
I'll make you a bet that those same damn niggers who are showing their ass in public, when their bitches get them home, man, they chill the fuck out.
Not these guys.
Oh yeah, those guys too.
Here you guys a story. One of Daddy's clubs. It's a black cocktail waitress named E. Lois.
E. Lois?
Yeah, E. Lois. E. and Lois. She called it Lady E.
Where was she from, Compton?
From Ladora Heights.
Oh, Ladora Heights.
Yeah, see, and there's the stereotype thing, right?
Oh, it's not the
From
Black
Compton.
It's the Black Palos Verdes. Anyway, Lady E, I mean, she was a man-eater upper. Unfucking believable. Every guy that...
That's funny, is if you're not from California, none of those inside jokes work.
Yeah, I'm a little lost on the whole, except for the Compton show. That's about it.
She always used to say,
You're under arrest, sugar. What's the name of the chick who played Christy Love?
Pam Grier.
No, it wasn't Pam Grier. Pam Grier was the other one. Pam Grier did the film. Christy Love was like a Pam Grier TV show without Pam Grier.
So, who was Christy Love?
What the fuck should I know?
Great, now I'm totally fucking tortured.
Whoever it was, it doesn't matter. She looked exactly like
I so identify with Pink on that one.
Right, yeah, because we've all gone through that where you're trying to play somebody in a movie now and you're going nuts.
Exactly like Eloise. Anyway, I come into the club one night, and there's Carlos. She's the bartender. He's a wetback. He's a friend of mine. And I said to him, Carlos, where's Lady E tonight? And now apparently Lady E was married to a real piece of dog shit. I mean, a real fucking animal. He used to do things to her.
Well, do things like what? What would he do? He beat her up or something?
I don't know what he did. He just did things, all right? So anyway, one night, she plays it real cool. She waits for this bag of shit to get drunk. He falls asleep on the fucking couch. She sneaks up on him, and she puts some wacko glue on his dick and glues his dick to his belly.
No.
Hey, I'm serious, man.
And that story kind of always, I think every guy in the world kind of shifts a little when they hear that story.
Was he all pissed off?
How would you feel if every time you had to take a piss, you had to do a fucking handstand?
Now this is not an uncommon thing in modern gangster films, but by giving us that scene, we get as the audience why Tim Roth is liking these guys. They're personable. They're funny. They tell stories. We saw even just a little bit of bonding between Pink and Orange in the back seat there, having some fun, right? It just so happens that they freaking rip places off as their occupation, and if cops get in the way, the cops might get killed. But it shows this glorification of the criminal, which probably isn't too far off, because if you listen to a lot of mafia history from New York, you realize that these guys, yes, they were thugs and they were brutes and everything, but they also kind of had this charisma about them that made them very popular in their neighborhoods. Real quick to you, Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
What if we always, it's funny, some of the biggest icons in history have come from criminals and outlaws, and in order to become, I think, like a John Gotti, if you will, or somebody like that, you have to carry that charisma that makes people like you, that even though you rip people off, and occasionally you might kill somebody will still turn and say, man, he's a funny guy, though.
Yeah.
And I think that's why his boss was actually getting a little annoyed in the one scene when they were talking about Mr. White. He's like, no, he's not a nice guy. He's a scumbag. And that's that.
Right. Because he's just overseeing Orange's undercover operation. He hasn't actually gotten in to know them where Orange has. And I get the feeling that Orange is kind of a newer cop, and maybe that this is his first undercover job, possibly. Like maybe he's trying to move up the ladder. I don't know. Right. That's the way I get it.
You could definitely see that, and you're right. You're learning about these characters now, and you can see why he likes them. Mr. Pink is kind of the neurotic one, a little bit off, always kind of diving into things and going nuts. Mr. White definitely comes off as he thinks he's the man in every situation. He's cool, calm, thinks he's as good as they go. And you got nice guy Eddie, who's just, trying to be funny at every turn. They've all got likable personalities, and they all gel well, and they all seem to like him. So,
yeah,
for an undercover cop, it's got to be a tough situation.
Quick trivia note for Jersey Joe. When The Sopranos first aired, it's based, of course, off of a New Jersey crime family. The members of that family, because they cast them and acted them so close, the members of the family would love, when it first began, saying, oh, that's me. Oh, no, that's you. That's me. The crime family would watch The Sopranos just to see themselves being portrayed on the big screen, which I always got a kick out of. Let's go ahead and reboot this thing. This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie coming up here.
Oh, you guys like to tell jokes and giggle and kid around, huh? Giggling like a bunch of young bros in a schoolyard. Well, let me tell a joke.
According to Tarantino, Lawrence Tierney, who was the old guy, was a nightmare to work with.
Wondering how the fuck they got there. What did we do wrong? What should have we done? What didn't we do? Whatever that. It's your fault, my fault, his fault. All that bullshit. Finally, someone comes up with the idea.
Things like that I've always wondered about, too. When they say someone's a nightmare, I wonder if everyone views a certain actor that way, or maybe just certain people don't gel well,
Tierney and him actually got into a fist fight, or were very close, and Keitel broke it up, I think it was. And a lot of people were thinking he was a bit of a prick.
Hell, we go down to Hawaiian Islands. I'll roll and laugh with all of you. Find me a different character down there. Right now, it's a matter of business. With the exception of Eddie and myself, whom you already know, we're going to be using aliases on this job. Under no circumstances.
There's Mr. Blue, Eddie Bunker, who is was a lifetime, or was a con for many, many years before he acted, and actually acted as a consultant on the film for Tarantino.
That includes where you've been, your wife's name, where you might have done time, or a bank maybe you robbed in, say, Petersburg. Well, I want you guys to talk about if you have...
Get the push in here on Orange as he's absorbing all this. Haven't seen too many push-ins used by Tarantino.
And possibly also finding out that this could have been the perfect job for him right now because they don't want to know anything about you, honestly, other than what you've already told them so far.
Right.
No specifics because they don't want to know who's who.
That's Tarantino laughing against Mr. Brown.
No way. Tried it once, it doesn't work. You get four guys all fighting over who's going to be Mr. Black. But they don't know each other, so nobody wants to back down. No way. I pick. You're Mr. Pink. Be thankful you're not Mr. Yellow.
Yeah, but Mr. Brown, that's a little too close to Mr. Shit.
Well, Mr. Pink sounds like Mr. Pussy. How about if I'm Mr. Purple? I mean, that sounds good to me. I'll be Mr. Purple.
You're not Mr. Purple. Some guy on some other job is Mr. Purple.
You can see Joe really getting like, seriously, the colors don't matter. Just shut up.
Wait, you have a cool sounding name. All right, look, if it's no big deal to be Mr. Pink, you want to trade?
Hey, nobody's trading with anybody.
He's getting so mad. He's like, what is this? Like 5th grade? Enough.
There's two ways you can go on this job. My way or the highway. Now, what's it going to be, Mr. Pink?
Jesus Christ, Joe. Fucking forget about it. It's beneath me, you know. I'm Mr. Pink. Let's move on.
I'll move on when I feel like it. You always got the goddamn message.
Also kind of showing us that Joe definitely holds a little sway because they all seem to be a little scared of him.
Yeah. This is a nice little bit, too, between white and orange.
Or go out.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown waits in the car. He's parked across the street. It's like in the signal, then he pulls up in front of the store.
Mr. Blonde and Mr. Blue.
Crowd control. They handle customers and employees.
That girl's ass.
It's sitting right here on my dick. You two take the manager in the back and make him give you the diamonds. We're there for those stones, period. Since no display cases are being fucked with, no alarm should go off. We're out of there in 2 minutes, not 1 second longer. What happens if the manager won't?
You can also tell here by this little monologue scene and the way they're talking about the job that something went horribly wrong with this job because they really did go through everything piece by piece here.
Gonna smash their nose in. Drops him right to the floor. Everyone jumps. He falls down screaming, blood squirts out of his nose. Freaks everybody out. Nobody says fucking shit after that.
And again, like you were talking about that mentor relationship, how he's kind of trying to talk Mr. Orange through what to do if things go wrong.
Right.
Now, if it's a manager, that's a different story. The managers know better than to fuck around. So if you get one that's giving you static, he probably thinks he's a real cowboy, so you got to break that son of a bitch in two. If you want to know something he won't tell you, cut off one of his fingers, the little one. Then tell him his thumb's next. After that, I'll tell you if he wears ladies' underwear.
Look at Orange here.
I'm hungry.
You just realized how badass these guys are.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna stop here. Yeah, I really like that scene with White because White really is cool, calm, and collected. Whereas Blonde shot the place up. He actually had little strategies based on even who the employees were. It's going to damage these people, but it's not going to kill them or even make them lifelong cripples until we get to the cutting off the damn finger thing. And Orange was right there with him until that. And Tim Roth did it beautifully. We saw it just for a moment where he's like, fuck me. And then he smiles at the very end of the scene.
Again, I think he thought Mr. White was a pretty cool guy. He's funny, this and that. And then, okay, well, this guy's not that crazy. Cut off his finger. Okay, never mind. All right. I was wrong.
Yeah.
He's a little bit nuts.
Yeah. So there we have it. We've got about 13 minutes left. We're going to get more info on the heist and the final conclusion, and then we're done with Reservoir Dogs and moving on. Any final thoughts, Joe, before we call it a night on this one? Oh, I think he frozen.
I think that scene with Mr. White and Mr. Orange is really important again to kind of explain to you why Mr. White is so defending of Mr. Orange and protective of him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a great way to show you why they are the way they are. And like you said,
Joe, could you repeat after like you said, because you kind of you're cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, my apologies. Like you said, kind of show that mentor relationship and how that's been built over what I'm getting. They seem to have formed a pretty strong bond at this point.
All righty. Thanks for tuning in to us, guys. We appreciate any and all time you gave us. And we'll see you. Pardon me. We'll just edit all that out. We'll see you for the final episode of Reservoir Dogs very soon. Take care.